Time once again to talk NFL playoff race with a look at the NFC heading into Week 10. As usual, the calculations will come from the Playoff Computer app. If you take fantasy football way too seriously and want to know exactly how things look in your 17 leagues, check it out on the Play Store. It has all sorts of geeky stuff, including the NFL-style paths to clinch, so you know what matters before making that big trade. And fair warning, this is a mathematical analysis with no bias for or against teams. Well, not much anyway. Only actual results, tiebreaker status, and the nuances of their remaining schedule are used to tell us where things stand. With that being said, the team in the NFC with the highest statistical chance to make the playoffs is...
We're number one.
Of course, the high-flying Detroit Lions, who are riding a 6-game winning streak. 7-1 with a 92% chance to make the playoffs. And as has been mentioned for the NFC North teams of late, the biggest problem is being in the NFC North. So far, the Lions have weathered a couple of division games just fine. They have wins over their two closest competitors, the Vikings, and this latest win over the Packers. That, combined with running roughshod over most of the rest of the NFC, gives them a 6-1 conference record, which will be handy just in case they falter off the division high horse. As of now, computer says 11 wins should be good for them to take the division, with getting to 9 or more, likely 10 being good for a wild card. So the Lions just need to find 3 more victories. Only 2 remaining opponents currently under 500, so they will have to continue rocking along at least for a game or 2 at least. The Atlanta Falcons move up 1 to number 2 after joining the long list of teams that have beat the Cowboys this year. Puts them at 6-3, a 2-game lead on paper over the Buccaneers in the NFC South. But since they already swept the Bucks, that is effectively a 3-game lead. So interestingly enough, it is becoming almost impossible for them to get a wild card. They are a 89% chance to make the playoffs, and all but a mere 2% of that is to win the division. Thus, their head-to-head tiebreaker games over other teams in the NFC are fairly meaningless right now. Should just need 9 wins to sew up the division. Get to play the Dennis Allen Free Saints this week to close in on that target. The Washington Commanders, despite beating the Giants, slipped to number 3 on the list behind the Falcons as they are in a much tougher battle for a division. Sitting at 7-2 with a 57% chance to win the NFC East and 87% to make the playoffs. Have just played the Giants within the division, sweeping them, but that is part of a nice 5-1 conference record, which for now gives them an advantage over the Eagles on top of the half-game lead. They have had a relatively easy strength of schedule so far, and that toughens up with games against the Steelers and then a big one against the Eagles. We're looking at them needing somewhere between 10 to 12 wins to take the division, likely the 12. So not anywhere close to that yet. They are getting close to the likely 10 wins needed for a wild card. We'll see how they come out of these next 2 to see whether they even have to worry about wild card tiebreakers. The Commanders' stablemate Philadelphia Eagles move up to number 4, riding a 4-game winning streak, the latest over the lowly Jaguars. Chasing the Commanders 39% to win the division, a little better than 3 or 4 to make the playoffs. Looking at possible head-to-head tiebreakers that may be important. Right now, the only one looking relevant is the win over the Packers. play the Cowboys in Dallas this week to try to put them out to pasture. Then that big game against the Commanders for possibly first place. The Minnesota Vikings ended a 2-game slide by beating the Colts and moved up to number 5. Watch out for them to pile up a couple more wins with games against the Jaguars and Titans upcoming. Then things will toughen up a bit down the stretch. Should just need to finish 4-5 to make the playoffs. Have one victory over the Packers, so can't lose the head-to-head tiebreaker against them for best in division purposes. A win over the 49ers, but a loss to the Rams that may come into play come crunch time. The Green Bay Packers, with the loss to the Lions, dropped down to the 6th spot. Even with a 6-3 record, their mathematical odds to win the NFC North are just 13%. Close to 2 out of 3 to make the postseason, however. 0-2 in the division so far, and just 2-3 in conference play are things that are going to putting a slight dent in their chances. Do have wins over the Rams and Cardinals. On their bye this week, come out of it with a chance to put the Bears and then the 49ers into the far fringes of the playoff picture. Just have 2 remaining games against teams currently above 500. The rematches against the Lions and Vikings. The Arizona Cardinals have won 3 in a row and are sneaking up the chart. Beat the Bears to avoid being on the wrong side of 500, leading the NFC West by a smidgen over the Rams and 49ers, with the Seahawks just a game back, but have the best division and conference records among the group, so their division odds of about 4-10 with even Steven chances to make the playoffs. Do have a winnable remaining schedule. Just one opponent currently over 500. This week, get a rejuvenated Jets team before going on vacay. The Los Angeles Rams with a huge jump from 12-8 after winning their 3rd straight. An important division battle over the Seahawks to avoid last place. Puts them at 500 for the year. Have an earlier loss to the Cardinals that they will need to avenge to not lose that important head-to-head tiebreaker. 24% to win the division, 35% to make the playoffs. Dolphins and Patriots next up. The San Francisco 49ers moved up a spot while resting. 1-5 to win the division, 1-3 to make the playoffs. Do have a stretch of games against playoff wannabes coming up. Buccaneers, Seahawks, Packers, Bills, Bears, and Rams. Likely need to go 6-3 the rest of the way to make the postseason as either division winner or wild card. The Chicago Bears fell 3 spots to number 10 with their 2nd loss in a row, losing to the Cardinals. Tough as nails remaining schedule with 6 remaining opponents currently above 500. That makes this week's game against the Patriots a must-win to have any chance. Right now, a little short of 1-3 to make the playoffs. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers fell to number 11 with that heartbreaking Monday night loss to the Chiefs. 4-5 in the NFC is not a good place to be, as the playoff field is much more crowded than the AFC. Down to a 22% chance. 2 things in their favor. Easiest remaining schedule. Just 1 team currently above 500. And they have built up a 4-2 conference record. So they shouldn't be counted out quite yet. The Seattle Seahawks now find themselves in last place in the NFC West after the loss to the Rams, which puts them at 4-5 with an 0-2 division record and a poor 1-4 conference record. Their only conference win was over the Falcons, which is unlikely to be relevant for tiebreaker purposes. 1-5 to make the playoffs on bye this week. Come out of it with two huge games against the 49ers and Cardinals. Well, if Jerry Jones was disappointed in a 3-4 Cowboys team, he probably isn't loving a 3-5 one. Likely would need to win out to capture the NFC East, or just a 7-2 finish to make the playoffs. Upcoming schedule is Eagles, Texans, and Commanders. Not sure that math adds up for a 7-2 finish. The Carolina Panthers have left the cellar with their win over the Saints. That's the end of the good news, however. Still 2-7, just 3% to make the playoffs. Would probably have to win out, and even that might not be good enough as they no longer control their own destiny. The New Orleans Saints have now dropped 7 straight and a head coach. 50-1 against making the playoffs, mathematically wise. Also would have to win out. Also might not be good enough, as also no longer control their own destiny. The New York Giants take over statistical last place with the loss to the Commanders. 2-7 along with the Panthers and Saints, but without any hope of miracling a division. 100-1 against making the playoffs. Play the Panthers this week for winner to hold on to any hope. That's it for now in the NFC. Enjoy your day.